Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of the support, engagement on the channel in any way, subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting is totally appreciated. It's what keeps giving me the resources in order to be able to offer the content here. If you want to support the work in other ways, I do have a Patreon community. The first tier is basically a donation tier that also includes all of the extended readings I will ever do. And then the tiers above that include lots of live teachings, lectures, transmissions, readings, guidance. We do healing, Reiki healing, guided meditations, and then we also do live events per month. Okay. So we do about like 2 to 3 live events per month. So if you are interested in checking that out, the link will be down below. And I'm doing something a little bit differently today because I actually have a lecture, transmission, teaching that I was guided to share publicly, that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. I'm either going to edit it to the end of this little intro video, or I'll just do like a part 1 and a part 2. I'll probably do that just so the video doesn't get too long, or I'll just link it. I'll figure out the logistics below. That's nothing you need to worry about. It should be obvious. So as long as you're subscribed, you will be able to see the content. But the reason I'm doing this sort of introduction to this video is because I just want to share that the teachings that we do in the Patreon build on one another. So there's a lot of context. There's a lot of history and information that if I'm just guided to share this video because the message behind it feels so relevant and so true, and so it could benefit many people. So that's why I'm being guided to share it. But I also want to just state that taken out of context, it may not make sense, right? Or parts of it might, and parts of it may not. So that's why I was guided to kind of share the difference between what I'm sharing in this video versus what it might be misconstrued as, especially to a wider audience. So this video is specifically regarding a twin flame journey, somebody who identifies as being in either the divine masculine or divine feminine polarity, and they have interacted with this person in their experience, okay? And that could be their physical experience. Most likely it's going to be in the physical. So you've been activated, you've been initiated by this person in the physical. But for some, it could be that they have had an activation with someone who was not their twin, but that they were activating them to the twin flame journey and the twin flame teachings and knowledge, and could be on their way to meeting this person in the physical. Okay. If none of that makes sense to you, then this is probably not the video for you. Okay. If that makes sense and you're still with me, then I just want to share that what I'm talking about in this video is what I am calling inner union. Now, that is something that is specific to a twin flame journey. However, every spiritual journey, there's so much crossover and there's so much like spiritual dichotomies, right? But every spiritual journey is bringing you closer and closer to who you truly are, helping you, assisting you to elevate your consciousness and your frequency to come into the embodiment of your higher self. Okay. So being a human in a human body, but being a spiritual being and embodying more and more of your spiritual energy. Okay. So becoming cleaner in your frequency, cleaner in your energy, all of that. That's beautiful. And I recognize that everything that I share in this teaching could be misconstrued as an inner, kind of like what the monks are after, right? Peace. I keep wanting to call it inner union. It's like they won't give me another word. I'm trying to think of the things that people call it. I think people call it like enlightenment. There we go. Thank you. I was like, what else do people call it? Enlightenment, coming to inner peace, coming to a state of surrender. Oh, a lot of people that make art call it flow state, right? Thank you. I was like, what do they call it? I just kept hearing inner union, because that's my journey and that's the collective that I teach for, especially in the Patreon. It's really everyone that's been touched by the twin flame journey. But I understand when I share here, it reaches a wider audience and it reaches people that relate to this work, even if they don't necessarily understand the specifics. That's the beauty of working in the higher realms and working in channeling, is it's meant to teach, or excuse me, it's meant to reach who it's meant to reach. And it's not my business how that works itself out, right? I'm merely a human channeling the divine energy. So that being said, in this video, I'm specifically talking about what occurs when you share share a soul with somebody in another body, and that is that twin flame journey. Okay, so I'm specifically addressing the kind of the I want to say levels, but again, not necessarily correct, but the iterations, the growth, the process that occurs. And when you come into a reclaimed sense of self, you come into a state of sovereignty, you come into a state of remembrance, and you've healed all of that inner wounding that this person acting as a mirror was helping you get to. That's what I'm referring to as the inner union, specifically for a twin flame path. Now, you can reach all of that without being on a twin flame journey. You can go through that whole process, but the thing is instead of it being one teacher, it's going to be many teachers. Okay. And the difference, I think, with a twin flame connection is this person, like, you could be a master, and I love to do quotes. Just I get quotation happy. You'll see that in this transmission. I think it's because I talk with my hands and I just love to like jazz hand things. So so you'll see that in a twin flame connection, this person is going to be like the master class. So you could be really good with your family, with your friends, with past partners, soulmates, as the kids like to call them, karmics. You could feel so like sturdy and solid and in your sovereignty, in your remembrance, in your inner knowing, and trusting yourself. And you can just feel like, yeah, like I'm a spiritual badass, right? Like you're like, I really know how to navigate this life thing. And then you'll meet your twin and you'll be like, what the fuck is going on? Right? Because all the wounds that you didn't even know were still there are purged and they start coming out. So that's kind of the difference, I think, is that you can be really solid in all avenues of your life, but then this person is going to draw out parts of you that you had no idea were there, even if you are a self-reflective person, even if you were spiritual and working some sort of a spiritual journey path. It's kind of like the fast forwarded ascension path. At least that's how I see it. Okay. And that's because that's what I've experienced. Okay. So this is all speaking from experiential understanding and learning. Okay. Yes, I study in concepts like the law of one and spirituality and all these other things I've taken from all these different places, but I'm speaking experientially. Okay. And those of you that have experienced this, it activates remembrance and deep knowing within you because you've experienced it. And it doesn't mean that you have to have experienced it to gain insight or information or activation from any of the transmissions I share. It just means sometimes they may not make full sense. And that's why it felt like this kind of explaining the backstory and where this is kind of coming from. Because we all absolutely on this planet at this time, regardless of who we are and what our journey is, whether we think we're spiritual or not, we are being asked to become more and more energetic. We are being asked to face our inner shadow. We are being asked to do this work, okay? This spiritual work, whether we want to call it that or not. And so all of us have this opportunity to come to a state of enlightenment, to come to an awakening, right? And that is something that is very temporary. And what I mean by that is when you experience an enlightened state or you experience a deep state of peace from any sort of journey, doesn't matter what, it's a beautiful state and it's a state to be cherished and it's a state to really kind of surrender into and enjoy. But we also know when we're in our integrity and we're coming from a place of humility that it is temporary. Right? We're going to also still experience lows. We're going to experience difficulties. We're going to come out of our ideal, optimal state. We're not going to maintain it. Even the monk on the hill is not going to maintain enlightenment nonstop all the time. That's a real misinterpretation of the teachings, I think. That's a real infantile sort of way to look at it. And I don't mean that to be offensively, but it's a very black and white way to look at things, right? And so we understand that everything is temporary. That's the one thing that we can be assured of. So everything is temporary in this human experience, in these human bodies. And so we'll experience bliss, we'll experience despair, we'll experience confusion, we'll experience certainty, we'll experience all of it. And the inner union is the surrender to all of it. It's the flow state. It's being willing to just be in it without you know, judging ourselves, shaming ourselves, telling ourselves we're doing something wrong, trying to get better, trying to be the best, competing with ourselves, competing with others, you know, all this stuff that we see that happens, you know, in any sort of community, the twin flame community, the spiritual community, where it's this like, always be better, always be growing, always do more, when really it's just a surrender to what is. And this journey I've seen, at least for myself, is it's like, I don't want to say it's the fast forwarded way in terms of time, but it's like, you're going to learn this lesson whether you like it or not. You don't really get a choice. Like, you're going to get hit over the head with this lesson until you finally just surrender. And that's kind of how it's created that way by design, where you, unfortunately or fortunately, really fortunately, but to the human sometimes it feels unfortunate, is that you don't get to just walk away from this journey, and you don't get to just walk away from this person. You can try and you can try and you can try, but you realize that's you being in resistance, and that's you fighting what is. When you surrender, that's what puts you into that let's call it a river of, like, you're moving down now the flow of the river. There might be some really crazy falls, some really crazy rapids that are going to hit you, but every time they hit you, you go through a little death, and you go through some more transformation. And so it's that purging, that releasing of all of that wounding, that programming that was never yours to begin with. So you're coming closer and closer into an inner state of union, right? And what I talk about in this video, every time I talk about the inner union, I'm not talking about enlightenment. I'm not talking about peace. That's the clarification I really wanted to make, is that those things are different. You can experience enlightenment for 5 minutes. You can experience enlightenment for 2 months. You know what I mean? You decide. You get to choose. And also, when you recognize that, you know, things are going to be temporary, that's the beauty of any spiritual journey. But what I'm referring to in this video is an inner state of union, where once you do really reach that, based on the work that you're doing with this other person, with this mirror soul, it never goes away. That is not temporary. That's just the remembering of who you truly are. That's just the reclamation of who you truly are. And that is required to move on to the next phase of a twin flame journey. Okay. So I hope that gives a little context. And I know some of this may not make sense as to because you haven't watched the next part yet, but I just wanted to give that clarification and make it pretty clear, so that in case somebody comes to this work and is finding it and doesn't have a background in the twin flame journey, they understand that I'm not saying that once you experience bliss or inner union that you're going to experience that forevermore and you're just good and you just don't have to worry and you can just kick back and put your feet up. I think our human and our ego tries to trick us into thinking that, like, once we've learned a lesson, we can check it off the list and we're done and we're like good to go. But then we realize there's always deeper. There's always more to evolve. And so staying in a state of, you know, first off, gratitude for all that you're learning in the lessons, and also humility, and just the more you know, the less you know. That whole kind of principle is really, really beneficial on any sort of spiritual journey, because that spiritual ego, that spiritual hierarchy tries to slip in a little bit. And so I just wanted to be really, really clear that that is not in any way what I'm referring to. I'm really referring to a state of inner union when you do share one soul. It's important for you to reclaim who you truly are through that process, so that you can come into an inner union, all parts of you, right? So with that being said, if you feel guided and called to this work, definitely keep your eyes out for this video that I will release in tandem with this one. And I hope you all are having a beautiful, beautiful week. I will be back as I'm guided. There might even be another part to this video, this transmission, as I'm guided, because it just feels like such a big topic that to try and get it all out in one sitting, it feels immense, because it feels so multidimensional, and I am guided to try and hit all the points. Okay. But I also, that being said, want to share that the words are not important. What I'm saying is not important, right? I'm human. I make mistakes. I mess up on words, right? We all do, especially when you're channeling, because you turn off that part of your brain that is, you know, analytical and trying to figure out and making things right. So when you're truly just channeling, we try and find the best words to describe what we're being shown, either visually or what we're feeling emotionally. That being said, really what I am communicating and emoting is a frequency. It's in a code. It's a transference. It's a transmission of the codes that I hold within my body, of my experience. And I'm here in service to share it with the collective in hopes that it might be beneficial and it might activate some remembrance in some of you, or it might plant a seed, right? So that's the whole point. And that's really what all of us are doing on here. Okay, this is a weird intro, but it's because I've never done this before. But I hope it does give some context. And if you have questions or you're curious about more of this work and want to learn more, all that information will be down below. And thank you for your support and showing your appreciation for this channel and this content, and supporting truth. That's really a huge thing that we can do in this day and age. All of us supporting other light workers, trying to do good by humanity. All right. Sending you a big hug. Lots of love. All right. So I'm doing a transmission here within a time constraint. And anytime I have a time constraint, I don't always get to the whole meat of the transmission. So that being said, there may be a part 1 and a part 2, but it felt like this was an incredibly important message for divine feminines at this time. Now, I'm aware we have divine masculines in this group, and I'm going to encourage you as a divine masculine to find the message within, because my guides told me this is just as applicable for the divine masculines, but in a different way. So, but they told me to just channel it as if I'm speaking directly to divine feminines, which I know I am as well. Okay. Now, I also am, let me just get into the transmission and then I'll get to that second point. Okay. So the whole point of these journeys is a reclamation and a remembering of who you truly are, an inner union. Now, the reason that this is so critical and so important is because we all came with very important missions. This was discussed in our most recent live with the masters, and it was a message from Yeshua and Mary that they wanted everyone to get really curious, if they don't know already, what their unique codes are that they are here to offer as a gift in service to humanity. What is that? What do you hold? And it's not necessarily, oh, I'm really good at math and numbers, right? Great. It can be expressed in many different ways, right? Just like my codes, I express through working with you guys through the internet, okay? And doing coaching. Now, I could have chosen with the codes I have to do so many different things. I could have been a shop owner, I mean, I did do many different things prior to doing all this, right? So it's not necessarily what you're doing, it's what you hold. And that can be as simple as, the energy and the frequency that you carry when you go out into the world and interact and engage. Now, if we do not come into an inner union with ourselves and reclaim and remember who we truly are, it's not that we don't have an effect. You still have an effect, and the divine will always work for the highest good of all. But it's almost like looking through a dirty window, right? Like, so your codes are in there and you can kind of see on the other side of the window that there's some beauty and some gifts, but it's not going to have the amount, the impact that it's meant to have. It's not going to be as shiny or clean, and it's not going to have as many people attract to it as is designed, as is the plan, if you will, right? And so those of us that chose to incarnate in a twin flame soul journey, meaning we are the same soul, the same frequency, just in separate expressions in separate bodies. And one is choosing to hold the archetype of the divine masculine, and the other is choosing to hold the archetype of the divine feminine. Strictly energies, not gender whatsoever. Okay. So we decided that because we knew 12:22 on my clock, that there was a foolproof plan attached. We knew that no matter what, no matter how confused and distorted and inverted and shame and guilt and all this stuff was thrown on us in the third density, because we knew as very evolved master souls, we knew that the third density here on earth is one of the hardest dimensions, like literally the hardest. Like, people get it twisted and people say this is the worst place to be. It's a slave planet, blah, 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 all this shit. No. This is like the Olympics. Like, this is like the hardest planet. So the amount of soul growth and potential here is immeasurable, right? So everyone wants to get in here, especially at the time that we're in right now. And most of us that are here have, I don't even want to say most, we all have a very specific mission and purpose to play out here. Some of us are working in the positive polarized and some of us are working in the negative polarized. That's another conversation. I've gone into it many times in this Patreon. So if you want to go search videos, they're here. But I'm not going to go into that now. What I am going to say is this journey with the twin flames was this knowing that maybe if we've come in and our twin stayed behind because our twin was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to help you in the higher realms. It didn't always work. Okay. There were many, we've had so many different experiences and lifetimes of trying to get it right and it not going well. The divine, as well as us, were not willing to take those chances. So we incarnated with this soul that would hold us accountable, that would be that divine mirror. Now, if that divine mirror is triggering you in any way, I want you to listen really closely. If you see a photo of them, if you interact with them in the 3D, if you have a dream about them doing something, and in the dream, you are so emotionally triggered and upset, or even slightly, or confused, I want you to know that is a reflection of your wounding, meaning you are not in a full state of inner union. You are not in the state of inner union that you are required to get into in order to complete your mission with this person. And yes, in the 3D. There is no reason that the two of you would have incarnated in 3D physical bodies at the same time if it weren't designed for you to come together, okay? There's a lot of confusion on this topic that people teach. There's a lot of confusion. Yes, there may be age differences. Yes, you may have signed up for a lesson where one of you might leave the physical body first, and that's a part of your union. And I'm not saying that to like scare anybody. I'm just saying there are instances where there is, there are choice points, and there's also this beautiful design, right? But we're speaking in this present moment. If you are both in physical bodies and you know who each other are and you have met each other, and or you are getting initiated to meet them, so you're having visions, you feel like you're a twin flame, you're connected to this work, you feel like you're drawn in. Maybe you've had like a karmic, or you've had a toxic relationship that you thought was a twin flame, and now you're realizing, okay, that's not it. But you still feel drawn to this, so you're being initiated to meet your twin flame. This is all the same thing. Now, the triggering, okay? And the triggering, I mean, I feel like we do overuse that word, but divine feminines, I just want to be very, very clear. You are the energetic leader, okay? It doesn't matter if you're in a male body. It doesn't matter if you're in a female body. It doesn't matter if your masculine is a female or a male. It does not matter. None of that shit matters, literally. That's the illusion. That is the Maya of this planet, okay? That is the trap. So if you are triggered in any way by any of those things as the feminine, then you are not ready to be the energetic leader for your masculine to come into 3D physical union. Because the higher realm union has to occur first. And it has to occur within you, feminine. Because you are the leader, you go first. Don't ask me why. They don't give me answers about shit like that, right? It just is what it is, okay? But you have to go first. So you know that you have reached this state when you hold pure love for this person, meaning you could see a photo of them and you could see them kissing someone else or dating someone else, and you would still hold pure love because you would see the truth of that expression of what's actually going on. You would not get caught up in the Maya or the illusion. You would see the truth, because if this person is your true twin flame and they are kissing someone else and you are not triggered by it, then it is not about you. It has nothing to do with you. It is not a reflection of them choosing that person over you. It's not a reflection of who they love better. And you will see that from the complete inner union state. So what I mean by that is you are either perceiving every single thing that your twin is doing, and honestly, every single thing in the external world, from your wounding or from your empowerment and your remembrance. Okay? So the twin is the best freaking mirror in the world. It's the best example, because this person you cannot let go of, you cannot run from, you cannot walk away. As hard as you try, you can't let them go. Bosses, roommates, even family members, right? Your past relationships, you can walk away from any of those people at any time. Your twin, it's the foolproof plan. You cannot walk away no matter how hard you try, right? It's different than a karmic. I'm just going to say that here for anyone who's experienced that. And that's a topic for another day. And I've also done a lot of videos on that. So you can go back and look at the history. So it's different. But with a twin, you just cannot walk away because you're not meant to. You are meant to use them as the tool to help you heal all of that wounding within you. It comes up to the surface through the twin, you get triggered, and it's your wounding that's having that experience. So if you're having any form of a negative experience with your twin, it is quite literally your wounding coming up to be seen and shown so that you can purge and release it. Now, there is something that starts to happen on a journey. Once you have come into this inner union as the divine feminine, it doesn't mean that the masculine automatically comes into their inner union, unfortunately. It does take them time as well. But you have to get really solid in holding that vibration, that frequency for them, because you are their lighthouse. You are guiding them. It's like an attractor beam. It's all energy, right? So once you get into this phase, you now then help them on their journey to inner union. So what might happen for you is you might feel really sad all of a sudden. And you're like, this is interesting. Well, have I purged my fears around this? And you start to do this inner reflection and you start to notice, okay, so this isn't mine. And then you can just feel this emotion so beautifully. And you can just be this assistant in assisting them transmute these emotions, because now you know it's them and they're experiencing it and you agreed, you signed up to help. Right? And the way that you know that it is theirs and not yours is you are not attached to it. It flows in and it flows out. It's literally like when you see a child. Oh my God, this is the cutest thing. How children move from one emotion to the next like that. I love it. Because we're all meant to be like that. And I just think it's so beautiful. So if you see a little kid, he like falls down, scuffs his knee, he like probably doesn't care at all until he sees blood or until he sees the humans around him freaking out. And then he goes, ah, and he's like crying and freaking out, right? And then like 2 seconds later, like his little friend comes over and like is like, hey, look what I got. And he has like a toy. And the kid's like ecstatic, right? That is how we're meant to move through the emotion when it's pure. And honestly, even in that situation, oh my God, that's so interesting. Even they're showing me, even in that situation, it wasn't even the child's emotion. It was the parents or it was the adults, because they got freaked out because they saw blood. Where the kid, sometimes when you fall down and hurt your knee, it doesn't even hurt. And then it's not until you see blood that you're like, oh shit, I actually got hurt. You know what I mean? So it wasn't even that child's emotion, which is why they can move through it so quickly. Okay. And we're meant to move through emotions quickly, but most of us are not there yet. So when you can come into something, and that being said, you might feel like, anxiety. Okay. So an anxiety is a big one that the masculine collective goes through and kind of purges and helps heal. You might feel it in your body. It might feel tension. You might feel a lot of pain in all anxiety is like throat chakra, chest, solar plexus, stomach, right? So like for me, I've just been in absolute discomfort for a lot of this journey in these areas. But I've started to learn in my connection that I feel what they are feeling emotionally. I feel it physically. So it's just really interesting. And I'm sure there's crossover and whatnot, but you just start to pay attention. You start to notice. So I'll do this evaluation. Am I anxious about anything in my life? Am I stressed? Is there anything that I really should be, that would give this emotion an understanding where it's like, oh, okay, that's what I need to see. And if you come to that place where the answer is no, because you're in that inner balance and that inner harmony, then it's not yours. Another way that you can know that it is not yours and it is theirs is if you truly are not triggered by them in any way. Like you could have a dream. I'm going to use this as an example. You could have a dream of them, seeing them with someone else. And in that dream, even in that subconscious, because, the dreams a lot of times are the subconscious. In that dream, you are not triggered. You are not hurt. You are not in pain. In fact, this other person that you're perceiving them to be with, it doesn't even clock. They don't even register. You continue to be in this unconditionally loving, open-hearted space with this person. And in fact, that person almost disappears by your response, because what we give energy to grows, right? So when you have that wounding, then that's your biggest fear. When you have codependency, then this is your biggest fear. Any of these things, right? Whatever your fears are, and I know they're going to be so unique. They're going to be just as unique as all of us, because it's all about our conditioning, our programming, and what we came in with to transmute. So we all have this, but this journey through the initiation and the periods of coming in and triggering each other quite intentionally, we start to purge it. We start to transmute it into pure love. And so feminines, you must go first on this. And so if you have been sitting pretty, thinking that you are in an inner union, however, you still have some pain, you still have, if something it's almost like you're like just praying and hoping that nothing rattles your cage, right? Like, okay, I'm going onto Instagram. I hope I don't see anything, right? Or if you're still checking up on this person, if you're still feeling the guidance, and I'm doing this because they're like, no, no, no. At a certain point, we're not guiding you to do that because that is chasing, okay? It's a chasing energy. You have to understand, as twin flames, it's all about energy. It's not about the literal 3D at all. So even if this person doesn't know that you've checked up on them, energetically, that energy comes through. And what it shows for the feminine is that you're just available. You're always there. The masculines have to go through a period of losing the feminine. That is what awakens them. That is their process. It's why you are their lighthouse, right? I've said this before and I'll say it again here. The feminine plugs into the divine, plugs into the higher realm, okay? Whatever that means to you. Plugs into the all, the one, love, whatever, yeah? Yourself, your higher self too. Masculine plugs into feminine. I know that sounds weird. I know for so many of us, because we want to be these autonomous sovereign beings, but this is the thing. You're the same soul. And you look at like magnets, receiver, giver, right? The feminine is holding the space for the masculine to plug into her, like literally, figuratively, metaphorically, you name it. That is where they get their guidance. So if you feminine are in wounding, if you feminine are in doubt, in fear, in anxiety, in worry, in confusion, in why not me, in victim, in any way around and towards this connection and this person, they are not going to feel secure. They're not going to feel safe. They are not going to trust. They're going to be wishy-washy. They're going to be in and out. They're going to be indecisive. And they're not even going to understand why. Because it has nothing to, and they're also not going to be given the space and the protective sort of, like, feminine kind of cocoons masculine. Once she comes into inner union, she literally does this it's like you're bringing him into this like little cocoon that's so safe, and it's like, you can lie down and you can rest now and you can go through the transformation you need to go through because I'm protecting you in the higher realms, right? Masculine protects the feminine in the 3D, but feminine protects the masculine in the astral. So it's not until feminine is rock solid and sturdy in everything that she's learned on her journey and she's healed her wounding that she can really hold him in a protective little cocoon so he can go through his transformations, so he can go through his twin flame journey that's unique for him, all the codes he needs to get, all the initiations he needs to go through. So you are always, always working together. And by the way, the reason that you both have to get to these places is in a connection. Let's just imagine that you try to come into a 3D connection and union post-separation, but before you've both reached inner union. Can you just think for a moment how volatile that connection might be? How painful that connection will be, and how you guys will not be able to see the forest through the trees. The masculine will say and do something. The feminine's wounding will react and take it personally and think that it's about her because she's not seeing things clearly. And then the masculine will do the same. He will be perceiving her from her wounding, which is actually a mirror of his wounding. And the masculine, until the feminine goes through her initiation, the masculine thinks, and I love you masculines, but this is just part of being a masculine, they literally think their shit doesn't stink. They have no concept of, and they're in integrity. They're good people. It's not that they're liars. It's not that they're, pieces of shit. It's just, that was rough. Guys, come on. Let's be nice. Let's keep it age appropriate. It's that they literally can't see it until she does. So if she cannot see and hold him accountable and hold him in responsibility and hold him to his highest king, higher self, magician, emperor energy, right? Then he doesn't even have the path to get there. He doesn't have the map. He does not have the map. You are the map, feminine. So he will stay in this place of like, I think it's you, feminine. I think this is your fault. This didn't work out because you. And they don't really get it, right? Because they don't get the same sort of clarity and ahas because they're more connected into the 3D. By the way, gender doesn't matter. I just want you all to be really clear on that because I've had some questions about that lately. I'm not going to get to that in this because I want to continue this train of thought, but none of these things matter. That's all Maya. It's all illusion. We are souls. We are soul essence. We are pure love and pure truth. Okay? It is about union, but the inner union comes first. The inner union of self. The reclaiming, the remembering who you truly are. And you're in that place when you are not rattled. This person doesn't rattle you. You don't have your wounding come up. Now,
it doesn't mean that the 3D is peaches and unicorns and rainbows, okay? Because feminines are still doing their own journey. But like for me, for example, I'll just give this as an example to help kind of gauge what I'm talking about here. There are still things for me to work on and grow and evolve in my day-to-day life. They're constantly coming up. And I've passed so many different phases, and like the ego wants to be like, oh yay, you figured out money. Good job. You healed that, right? But then like 3 months later, you come to another layer of it where you're like, oh my God, I wasn't even capable of seeing this back then because I had to go through that. But now I'm working on money again and I'm seeing it in such a different way. So there's still gonna, it's not like you're complete. However, for me, my masculine is now my teammate, like 110%. My masculine is not the person delivering to me the triggers and the fear and the pain. There is quite literally nothing that that person could do that would cause me to go into my wounding and pain, because I've healed it within myself. And so anything that he would do that would be like your stereotypical trigger of what we've been taught on this planet about men and women, or just relationships in general, or, how we're supposed to be in romantic love, it wouldn't trigger me, because I would see, okay, well, if he's making that choice, if that's something that he's choosing to do, then that's his wounding. And do you know where I would actually go? Because this is me, this is my soul, this is another half of my soul, no one left behind. I will go into 100% understanding and compassion and empathy and love. And like, how can I support this person in what's appropriate for me without abandoning myself? But how can I assist them? How can I show them love? Or right? But not in a self-abandoning way, because a lot of feminines, that's what we were doing in the beginning when we were in our wounding, is we were self-abandoning, but we didn't have the resources or the nervous system or the foundation to be helping someone when we hadn't even helped ourselves yet, right? I hope this is making sense, because I know I talk about these concepts over and over and over again, but the thing about words is we can understand them intellectually, but it's not until we've experientially embodied that initiation, that transmission, that energetic, that we really, really understand it and the light bulb goes off, right? And so being really honest with ourselves, like, okay, like, am I kind of existing on thin ice in any way in this relationship? Like, could something happen to me tomorrow where I go, oh my God, I'm crazy. This whole journey is made up. It's fake. It's not real. I'm delusional. Like, and again, most feminines have gone through this. Most masculines have gone through this, where you just feel like you're crazy. Like, what is going on? This doesn't make any sense, right? And you kind of gaslight yourself based on the programming and conditioning of the world. So if you're kind of, if you've had an experience like that recently, B, if you feel like you're just praying to your guides and your higher self all the time, please don't rip the rug out from underneath me. Please don't rip the rug out from underneath me. Then I just want you to know you're still on that journey of coming to that inner union and eradicating that wounding, eradicating that pain that was never yours to begin with. So this isn't good, bad, better, or, more advanced or more ahead. All it means is that each of us are on a journey, and we are releasing all that was never ours to come back home to the remembrance of who we have always truly been. So the pain, the wounding, the jealousy, the insecurity, the codependency, the control, the competitiveness, the envy, all of it. None of that is you. Not even a little bit. None of it is you. I just want to be really clear. So you don't have to feel guilt or shame about any of that. You don't have to feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, I can't. No, you just go, oh, wow, what a wonderful lesson that I gifted myself, that me and my twin gifted each other. Like, what a beautiful lesson. And truly, when you can really start to come into that, where you can see every single thing that's happened on your journey as this gift, as like so beautiful, as wow. And I'm talking like the hard nights, the dark nights of the soul, the pain, the anxiety, the fear, all of it, that you can see like, wow, this person loved me so much that they were willing to sacrifice themselves and their comfort and their like feeling good for me, and vice versa, right? That they were willing to go into the unknown and be uncomfortable and not have any idea of what's going on, right? That is such a beautiful sacrifice. Now, I'm saying all this with the other foundational deep knowing and information that you all need to have, which I'm sure you probably know, and some of you might even be asking questions about this right now, is it okay to be angry? Is it okay to be in righteous anger and rage even, and frustration, and how dare this person do this to me? And oh my God, yes, because that is the process. So if you were to try to, which I think a lot of people do, unfortunately, is they don't want to get mad at their twin. They don't want to feel sad. They don't want to feel all of the uncomfortable emotions that we're told are bad and that we're told to have shame and guilt for. So they bypass, what I call spiritual bypass, that process. They never allow themselves to actually feel angry or to feel like betrayed or to feel like, dude, why'd you do that to me? That freaking sucks, right? They don't allow themselves to go there. So they actually keep themselves in stagnancy, and they never actually reach that inner union where they're just telling themselves, yeah, I love this person and high vibe, and they got to stay in this positive frequency because so many teachers teach that. So they're afraid that if they allow themselves to feel that darkness, that they're going to push their twin away. But the real thing you're doing there is alchemy. You're transmuting. You're in honesty. You're in integrity. And truth is the whole, it's the North Star. Truth is your North Star. So if you're telling yourself that you are an inner union and you're not going to be triggered by your masculine and you're feeling good and everything's good, but really there's some unprocessed rage deep down held in your body, and there's some unprocessed, like, just absolute sorrow and pain of what you experienced and what you went through, you're never going to get to the next point. Therefore, your masculine is never going to be able to go through the process that they need to go through. So you really, really have to be in complete surrender with what you're feeling and what the truth is. Processing those difficult, deep, hard emotions. That's going to get you to everything I've talked about in this video. That's going to get you there. You can't do one without the other. So if you've been processing all of that, all that fear that comes up, all that pain, all that rage, that is 100% aligned. It's okay to feel that. It's okay to feel that deep pain and sorrow for what's occurred in the 3D. The separation, if some of you had breakups, some of you, they chose someone else and dated someone else. Some of you, they chose something else. Some of you, they, talked bad about you to people, whatever it is, whatever that pain is, like, and I know the pain goes both ways. It's just expressed differently. So I know that the masculines feel the pain too, but they kind of try and like, compartmentalize it until they're resourced to feel it. And it's not because they don't care. It's because the divine knows they are not resourced to feel that pain right away. They really the divine needs time to work with them and to help them get resourced to process it. Okay. Because especially if they are male, but even if they're not, just holding the masculine polarity in our society, that's really what it means, is they're just not as versed to, they're not supported. Let's say that. They're just as capable as a feminine energy. In fact, deeply capable, super sensitive. I don't want to say one's better than the other, but anywho, I mean, I used to nanny, and like little boys are so sensitive in like the sweetest way, like way more sensitive to than girls. Little girls are pretty strong. They're pretty tough. Anywho, I digress. They are not as supported in our society. Therefore, they don't see it modeled by anyone that they admire. And they're just encouraged over and over and over again to compartmentalize it, to shut it down. So this is a hard thing for them, is to learn how to process the emotions, to give themselves permission to feel the emotions without guilt, without pain, without shame, and also to express that emotion, right? That's a really scary thing for them too, because men are often, and I know I'm using men here, but I really want to encourage you to understand that if you're in the masculine polarity, it's the same. Everything else is illusion. Okay. Everything else is the world projecting shit onto us. Okay. So masculine polarity is this, it's like everything they do is wrong, especially when it comes to the world of emotions, or especially when it comes to dealing in relationships, right? They're just afraid of getting it wrong because they often feel like they're told that they're wrong, right? It's a big thing. You're wrong, right? And I know it happens to the feminine collective as well, but it's just kind of in a different way. Okay, I'm running out of time. That's okay. Let me have some water. So this is a process you cannot rush. And yes, divine timing is at play. And the divine timing is not a date on the calendar. I've said this before. It's really your choice. This is why people say you have free will choice. You get to choose. You don't get to choose how things line up and sync up in life, because there's so many factors outside of you and your twin, right? But you do choose to come off of that stagnancy. You do choose, I'm willing to go through the fire. I'm willing to go through the initiation that might be really painful and really hard, but I know it's going to get me there quicker. I know that I'm going to come out on the other side quicker to that inner union. And so the people that I see that go through the hardest journeys, the darkest nights of the soul, where it seems like they're just in crash after crash after crash, or at least that might be how their ego perceives it or how other people's egos perceive it. Those are the souls with the biggest missions, like the most incredible Akashic record missions, like what they're here to do. And they learn trial by error and trial by fire, because they got to be so strong for what they're here to do. And it's literally preparing them, like every single bit of it, it's preparing them. But they get out of stagnancy. Stagnancy is our free will choice to sit and to wait and to feel like we're just waiting. But every time we feel like we're waiting, it's actually our guides going off of our lead. And they're like, okay, you've decided that you want to wait. You've decided you want to be passive and you're tired and your nervous system needs a break. So we're just going to be here holding you. And that's okay, right? That's okay. And there really is a difference between feminine surrender and receptivity and waiting and passivity and kind of confusion, right? And so much of this journey, especially for divine feminines, is about trusting ourselves. It's 100% about trusting ourselves. So if you still doubt and can't trust yourself in the presence or in the experience of this twin flame journey and with your masculine, that's a big indicator as well. I just want to be clear on that. That's probably the biggest indicator. If you still need validation from somebody else, or you need to like run it by someone, or it's a difference between processing and just speaking from the heart and having someone witness it. And there's a difference between kind of giving your power away, right? And feminines, we just have to be so rock solid, because here's the thing I see these unions coming together. And I've been told for so long on this journey that the masculine does not complete his journey, his separation, twin flame initiation journey, until he comes back into physical union with feminine. And it's almost like they've shown me the second that he takes that big leap, he or she takes that big leap that is, you know, speaking their truth, telling the truth, sharing their emotions, like all the things that scare the hell out of them, you know, being willing to fall on their sword, being willing to be wrong, being willing to be like, I messed up, you know, all of that. And to not be in any sort of control dynamic of how it's going to go, how it's going to end up, to really just being like a trust fall and surrender with the universe. That is when it all actually starts to click into place and make sense. And it's through relating with her in the 3D, her or him in the 3D. It's through coming together and really starting to relate and kind of see how the energy works. And the reason, feminines, is because you are now holding a completely new energy from who you were before, or how you used to engage, because how you used to engage with your masculine was from wounding. You may have been a very advanced soul and you may have had your shit together with everyone else in your life, but I guarantee you, with your masculine, they were the one person that like could just push those buttons and you didn't even see it. You were unconscious to it, right? You couldn't even see it. And especially how the mirror works and that you both are just reflecting. So what happens is it's almost like masculine does this testing, and the masculines do this testing with feminine from day one. They're testing, where is she at? Where is she at? So they're doing things that they feel guided to do, but are kind of like childish, or just, they're not like conscious relating templates, right? They're not like, if you want to be in a conscious loving relationship, this is what you should do. But the masculines are guided to do these things to kind of test the feminine in the beginning, right? After the separation, I'm shown that this sort of energy still exists, but because of the feminine's complete inner union and just holding this frequency of pure love, the masculine gets bored really quickly and realizes that energy was always within him, and it just has to dissipate. And it dissipates through this strengthening of that trust in her, or him, that trust that this person is solid. This person is really not going to project onto me or make it about me or try and manipulate me or control me or all the other things that, you know, their fear and their wounding tells them that a feminine energy will do to them, right? But feminine, you have to get to that place. So if you try and force a 3D union before y'all are ready, it's only going to just delay and do more damage, right? And so that's a big part of these journeys. That's a big part, is what they're showing me, is it's not that like when you have this 3D union with your counterpart, that it's going to be like hard or challenging. I'm not, because that's not what they're showing me. They're actually showing me that it's so incredibly pure, and it's a frequency of love that like this planet has very rarely seen. And you're not going to see models or examples unless there's other twin flames in your life that, you know, you're working with and learning from. So you're not going to really have, you know, you're going to be able to like go to therapy to like work it out. No, they're not going to know how to help you. So this energy is so, it's almost that the energy is so pure and so good that it's really hard to let that in. It can be really hard to let that in. And that's something that both twins actually have to work through and probably express in different ways. The way I see it for feminines is it's like really hard to receive, right? That's a big thing we have to learn, is how to receive. And so that can show up in your physical body. Like how do you surrender into energy? How do you receive, right? And so, and then masculines, it's like, how do I receive emotion and love and like acceptance and like, you know, it's so anyways, we're always holding duality with one another. We always are holding kind of, a lot of times we mirror, but sometimes we hold the opposite polarity for one another. So this is all preparation. It's all preparation because the divine wants you to succeed. The divine knows that there's a mission for, I was about to say for most of you, but no, for all of you. There is a very, very powerful mission that you all have. And some of you probably already know what it is. Some of you probably have those codes, especially if you've reached that inner union state. You start to develop those codes and you start to understand what the two of you are meant to do together. And those missions cannot fail. So it's like, you know, that myth of like, can you really have it all? Well, the divine says for twin flames, yeah, you can, and you will, if you just follow my lead, if you follow my guidance and you trust me. And it's okay if you get mad and you get impatient, you get frustrated, you get, you know, burnt out. It's okay. Like, it's totally fine. You can get mad at the divine all you want. They're like, we got you. It's all good. But just trust me, because I want to deliver the thing that you said you wanted when you formulated your life path for this life. You said you wanted this. You all put in the order together, the two of you, right? And so you're constantly working together. And that's one last thing I want to say. Once the feminine reaches that inner union, and then she starts to hold the frequency, there's a lot of work in that, right? There's a lot of patience. There's a lot of humility. There's a lot of, it's just a really interesting period because it can last a while. And it's almost like once you're in that place, the journey is not really about you anymore necessarily. Like you're still going to be doing things. You're still going to be assisting. It's like you come into service mode 100%. So you're either serving for mission or you're serving your masculine, and you're probably doing both, whether you know it or not consciously. But you're really assisting, and you're assisting, helping them get to that inner union. And then there's this time where you can feel an inner union between the two of you. And the thing is the ego and the human, when they can kind of consciously start to feel that, you think like, okay, well, we should just be together like this, right? Like everything's good. We're just, okay, it's all done, right? And the divine's like, nope, because now we're kind of grounding the frequency. We're holding it down in these higher realms. And then there's this whole process of the 3D world coming to meet it. And we always say the 3D world takes more time. There's more density. And so then there's kind of a process there of grounding it and codes and things that have to occur. And so there is like this foolproof plan. I really want you guys to know. And for whatever reason, this collective of twin flames connected to the Great Awakening and everything that's going on the planet, it's just, it won't fail. I don't know. They just say it cannot fail. It cannot fail. Therefore, it requires a lot of patience and trust. It requires so much patience and trust because it's a totally different ball game than any of us have played before. And we tried to do it before and we didn't necessarily succeed, because I'm shown that a lot of us here come from the time in Atlantis when a lot of us unfortunately kind of failed the mission. And so we're here in this redemption to get it right. And so trusting in all of that whole process and the timing, right? And still you're working on yourself. You're still evolving yourself in the whole time, but you're also holding this higher perspective that you two are assisting one another, you're helping one another, and you both have the same goal in mind. Once the truth and the clarity comes through, that comes from both of you having an inner union, then it starts to ground and it really starts to merge, and the codes start to change. You start getting codes for like literal 3D stuff, like how to be in partnership, how to support. This is beautiful. You start learning what this other person needs through the astral. This is not necessarily through 3D communication. In fact, I'm shown that most of this happens without any 3D communication, that you are literally learning how to love one another. You're literally receiving those codes, and you are having like a lot of energetic transference where you're feeling like their energy merging with you more and more. And so you're not necessarily becoming the other person, but there's just a weird sort of transference that starts to happen. And you're learning how to be a partner to this person, separate from your ego, separate from your humans, separate from your past relationships, past experiences. And you start to see the perfect harmony in it. There's such perfect harmony in it. Oh, this person's really good at this. I need help here. I'm really good here. They're a little weaker there, right? You start to see how it all works, but then it all actually starts to elevate and just balance out, and it just becomes equal. So there's no competition or envy or like all that stuff that happens in a lot of human 3D relationships. Okay, I do have to end it because it's literally like I'm at time. So there may be a part 2. I may share more on this because I know a lot of you have questions about like specific 3D things when it comes to, I know, like the same sex relationships and things like that. The best thing I can tell you is like in inner union, none of that matters. None of that matters. It all disappears. And how you begin to show, also for divine feminines who are females in a same-sex relationship, you need to be in your feminine energy. Because I think some of you get confused because you're still, because of the same sex nature, and I'm actually talking more about women and women. And so you start to confuse yourself, and you actually start to be in more of a masculine energy because you're trying to move this partnership and connection forward, and you're trying to initiate, and it doesn't work because this person is going to be attracted to your femininity. This person is attracted to your beauty and your surrender and your empress energy because they want to. Their soul is trying to move them into their masculinity, whether they're expressing it at all yet or not. So that's where the pure attraction is actually going to lie. It's going to lie in you being attracted to their most masculine and them being attracted to your most feminine. So if you are the energetic sort of, oh, I don't want to say that because that would confuse. If you are being a little too in your masculine or emperor or trying to court this person or initiate or all of that, that's not how the souls decided that they wanted to be on this journey together and to learn together. Okay. I hope that helps because I know I've had people be curious about that. So, but really, truly, the inner union helps you ground this and helps you move into a place of surrender and knowing what your role is and what their role is. And once you do that, they will start doing their work. But until you've done that, they don't move into that. They don't start to get these initiations or downloads. They really don't. It's almost like the masculine is kept like in a cave and they have no idea what's going on. They're like, it's just their whole journey. So it's different from ours in a lot of ways because of that. So you have to do your work so that they start to get these codes and activations. Otherwise, they're not going to know. And they're going to be a little bit in the dark. Okay. I hope that helps. I really have to go. Oh my God. Okay. Bye. Thank you so much for being here. All your support helps so much. Donations, booking sessions, liking videos, you name it, like the algorithms, like, please like the video, please like the video. And I wish I didn't have to say that, but it helps the support of this channel so much. Okay. Love you all. Bye.